Mic check, 1, 2. Is this thing on? No intro music. Intro music's for winners. Fancy edits, those are for winners. We just start this thing up and we go. Because for 3 straight weeks, Miami was on game day. They were ranked in the top 10. Things were going good. There was all kinds of graphics, ACC player, this and that, leading the conference in this, accomplishing that. And then in 1 week, it's all gone. All gone. Back to playing at noon, back to playing on a Hulu Plus app, and no hype, no swag, no nothing about the program. Man, nobody will fall off a cliff like the University of Miami. And wait till you see how these kids play against Pitt tomorrow. I wouldn't play. If I was on the team, I'd opt out. I'm not going to play with a bunch of guys that panic and quit and fold in the first drive. These guys have no backbone. Whatever. At the end of the day, these guys, the players just have no heart. And they disappointed the fans again. And it's not because of the loss, okay? Everybody is going to lose playing the number 1 team on the road unless you're friggin' sensational. That's how the sport's played. In college, you don't beat the number 1 team on the road if you're mediocre and you can rush for 10 yards with your running backs. You go home. 10 yards! All offseason. My Twitter, Duck, wait till you see these running backs coming through. These guys are the real deal. Now, you know who the real deal is? Clemson's running back. That's the real deal. The Miami running backs, they combined for 10 total yards. Sit down! Sit down. What a friggin' joke. And as in previous years, it only takes 1 game until it's all gone. All gone. The confidence, gone. Motivation, gone. Dedication to one another, gone. Pride in the program, gone. For once, what's it going to take for Miami to play a good team and at the end of the game to earn their respect? Because at the end of all these games that Miami loses, they get clowned. They get clowned 3 times in a row to Wisconsin. This is the 3rd time in a row they've been clowned by Clemson. Clowned, where the other team is jumping up and down on the sidelines, pointing and laughing. That doesn't happen to every other school. Every team Clemson beats, they don't do that to. Why are they motivated to do that against Miami? Because Miami acts like punks. And when the game gets played, they sit down. They have nothing. They don't show up. They fold and they panic. They panicked on the first drive. On the first drive of the game, it was over. They panicked. And then they act like complete clowns and get 2 more players ejected for targeting and 135 yards in penalties. And by the end of the game, Clemson's jumping up and down on the sidelines, pointing and laughing at the University of Miami. This doesn't happen to Boston College. It doesn't happen to NC State because those teams actually have discipline and they respect the sport. They don't go out like suckers every single time they lose. But the Miami players, nah. They're going to try to play dirty and hit late and do a bunch of other clown shit that just doesn't earn the respect of the other team. You might want to take the show, instead of showing Buster Douglas, maybe Manny would be better off showing a film by a University of Miami graduate called Rocky. You know who wins Rocky? Apollo. And it really wasn't that close. It was unanimous. But you know what? Apollo didn't want any more of that. He didn't want any more Rocky, until he had time to think about it. But Rocky earned his respect. Jesus. Miami clowned once again. Players crying. Manny admitting that players are crying. Don't ever admit that your players are crying in the locker room after a game. What the hell is there to cry for? You got stomped out. You cry after a 1-point loss when you think you deserve to win. Why you cry when you get stomped out? I mean, it's more than just when or lose. You know, I've been getting attacked all morning on Twitter. I don't give a damn. Oh, you have no knowledge of football just because I didn't memorize the roster. Here's a heads up, okay? Don't bother remembering anything you can easily look up. Right? What the hell am I going to memorize the roster for a bunch of kids on the team that never make a play? Right? So if I don't know the second string safety or the right guard or anything else, it's because these kids never make plays. I don't sit down and memorize the roster. Like people that used to collect baseball cards. I don't follow recruiting. Do you know why I don't follow recruiting? Because all of you guys get suckered every time. Oh, this guy's coming in. Man, this kid's going to be devastating. And you know what ends up happening? The kid does nothing. Not only does he stay out of the way or disappear from the program, no, they start and they do nothing. They're on the field doing nothing. Clemson players show up. They make plays across the board. Miami guys show up. Miami's such a weird team. What do? They block 3 field goals. That's it. There's the whole game. They couldn't throw the ball, couldn't run it, couldn't play defense, couldn't stop the run, couldn't stop the pass, couldn't return kicks, but they blocked 3 field goals and probably talked mad shit afterwards. And that's why Clemson clowns them at the end of the game, because they got nothing. So a week after that disaster, when now Miami's nowhere and is getting hammered all over local radio, which the transmitter is currently down, which makes me very happy because I'm sure Miami is one of the very few markets in college football where the local radio station has multiple personalities, hosts, and producers that hate the team and root for other teams. Like, that's just not happening in Alabama. Alabama does not have Lamar Thomas on the radio bashing the shit out of Alabama every week. Right? Lamar Thomas isn't on the radio in Gainesville, where he's from. But so, oh, yeah, we got Channing Crowder down here, a friggin' hater. Man, what a week. And now the game is on Hulu Plus, and some poor 85-year-old woman who's locked into a Comcast agreement because of her condo can't even get out of Comcast to get AT&T and get a dish to be able to watch whatever friggin' app Miami's playing on. It was one thing to play UAB on an app. Now they're playing Pitt on an app when only half of the teams in college football are playing? That's a great friggin' media deal you made there. President of the school, athletic director, head of the ACC, whoever signed this garbage deal. Want to see how hard it is to get on television? Go look at the 2 dopes that are running for president. They got TV shows real fast, huh? That's kind of how it works. Oh, shit, I need to get a spot. Yeah, all right, we'll put you on. We'll get ratings. Anything is going to get better ratings than what's normally programmed. Miami's had the 2 highest rated all ACC games since 2018. They got huge numbers on the Clemson game. Oh, but they lost it and they made fools of themselves. And now they're playing Pitt, a nobody program, a lifetime 500 winning percentage program, Pitt, which Miami's going to go out to and play flat. You know they are. Which guy on Miami is going to step up? Which one? Post the picture of the kid with the scratched nose again. Right? Look at him. He's yelling at players. He's making mean faces. None of that moved the needle at all. That's fake. You think when Gruden was on Tampa Bay, or even now that he's on the Raiders, and he scrunches his face up, that any of his players give a shit? They don't. Do you care when your boss does that? Let me just make a mean face and they'll know how mad I am. Nothing. The result is 0-sum gain. Nothing. So I'm not going to preview Pitt because I'm not going to act like I watch Pitt. I could go through the roster and look and see who their big playmakers are. Other podcasts will do that. I did that once. It was boring. I want to talk about the lack of leadership on this team, starting from the head coach down to his offensive coordinator. then to his quarterback, then to the offensive line, the running backs, and lastly, the wide receivers. Who on this team has any guts, has any pride left? They all retreat like Red after Debo took his chain or took his bike or whatever he took. Oh, my grandmama gave me that chain. We lost to Clemson, season over. Man, you should have seen my high school tape, though. For real. For real, for real. Get out of here. So, doing this podcast, getting a lot off my chest. I mean, just a brutal week. A brutal week. I wish there was one thing I could hang my hat on and say, that was a positive. They can really lean on that moving forward. Well, I guess we could block 3 more field goals, right? Maybe if we block 3, return 2, or maybe all 3 of them for touchdowns, we'll have a shot against Pitt. Or maybe one of the 3 running backs that combined for 10 total yards in the game against Clemson will we'll get like 20 yards this time. Like, how do you run for 10 yards? And if you're going to blame the offensive line, why aren't those offensive linemen switched out? How do you have a bad offensive lineman for 2 years? Dude, if you struggled last year, no one needs to see you this year. Does that make sense? Man, Duck, Clemson's for real, though. They got real dogs on their defensive line, and you just can't expect, these offensive linemen to perform. Dude, they got abused. They're not even competing. It's okay to get whipped. Everybody gets whipped. But to not compete, to just lay down and feel sorry for yourself is inexcusable. And that comes from the top. I don't believe in the whole bye week thing. I believe in the entire process that Manny doesn't have them fired up. It's not that they're not fired up and prepared after a bye week. They're never fired up and prepared. We couldn't even run the ball against UAB. If you can't run the ball, you go home. Let me school you people on a philosophy, okay? If you can't run the ball and you can't throw the ball, the dumbest thing you can do is continue to throw the ball. Because then you're going to get the ball intercepted. And the other team's going to continually have the ball. Now, if you can't run the ball and you can't pass the ball, yet you continue to run the ball for 0 yards, at least you bleed the clock. At least you're hammering the other team. And at some point, maybe there'll be attrition. Maybe somebody will get tired and you'll actually break a run. But to keep forcing the pass when you can't pass the ball because your receivers are weak, because your receivers are soft, and they're getting handled, destroyed by Clemson's corners, one-on-one coverage. Remember the days when Hurricanes would lean back and say, man, I wish they would cover us 1-to-1. I wish they'd go into bump coverage. Now, that's our worst nightmare. Gee, I hope they don't stack the box and put one-on-one coverage on the outside. What will we do? Our quarterback can't throw it. And the position of quarterback, I'll school you on this too. The whole rhythm of a passing game goes like this. Hike, 1, 2, 3, throw it. Got it? Hike, 1, 2, 3, throw it. Not 1, 2, 3, pat the ball, do a figure 8, start running to the right, tuck the ball into your arm, get it on the sideline. No. I'm not into struggling quarterbacks. I'm not into panicking quarterbacks or offensive coordinators that are going to put a panicked quarterback in a position where just make something happen. You know what I mean? Just do what you can back there. Just try to get a couple of yards if the protection breaks down. You might as well forfeit the game. You might as well go home. But if you had guts, if your offensive lineman had guts and you're like, no matter what, we're going to continue to run the ball. Because I would tell the running back, run into the guard's back with your helmet, spear your own player. If he's not going to move the guy in front of him, then you hit him in the back. They'd be calling targeting on my own guy for hitting his own offensive lineman, for spearing. Jesus. And I realized, listen, this podcast sucks, okay? And it's going to appeal to a very small percentage of people because most people want a cheerleader. They want somebody that's going to get on here and say, hey, it's just one game, guys. Clemson's the number one team. We can get right back into it. And if we win out, we can face them again in the ACC championship. You know what I mean? Just need a couple of breaks. You guys really want to see Clemson and Miami again this year? I think Clemson's going to get 3 field goals blocked again, or will they have fixed that? Because all Miami's problems, they won't be fixed. Not in 7 more games or 6 more games or however many's left. The problems never get fixed. And that's why they're playing on an app. Because the powers that be saw, again, they're like, new Miami or same Miami? Oh, yeah, same Miami. Oh, yeah. They're getting targeting penalties. They're losing composure. They're panicking. The offensive coordinator is panicking on the sidelines. Did you see that last week? It was in the first quarter. It might even have been the first Miami offensive drive. He's like running onto the field, waving his arms, like screaming. Like, dude, calm down. Everybody calm down. They're all a bunch of nervous Nellies. Never going to beat a good team if you're like rattled and panicked and hyperventilating and spazzing and jumping off sides and hitting quarterbacks late when they're sliding and all the dumb shit that just never gets fixed. Never gets fixed. Okay, let's look forward to Pitt. All I know about Pitt is that they're a lifetime 500 team, and that's a nothing program. They're never in the mix for the national championship. They play spoiler once every couple of years and beat a top 5 team and ruin somebody's season, but they never make any noise. You know, I never understood why Blades went there. And now they've got the quarterback Pickett, who beat Miami as a freshman when Miami was ranked, number 2 or number 3 in the nation. And they have a defensive line that actually stops the run, and they have a pass rush, and they get some sacks, which means that's bad news for Miami because football is all about matchups, and the last team that Miami needs to match up with is a stout defensive line team that can get pressure. Because you know what that means. Struggle, man. Our quarterback is going to be doing figure eights and just heaving the ball and hoping somebody comes down with it. And our receivers can't fight for position and don't compete for the ball. They just wait there or fall down or wait for a penalty. I mean, them boys, sorry. I told you guys, like almost 90-something% of wide receivers are sorry. That's why that shit only happens to Antonio Brown and T.O. and crying on national television and all that shit because receivers are soft. They're half track, and if you're looking for something out of a wide receiver, there's like a handful of wide receivers that you can count on in life. And guess what? None of them are on the University of Miami. And calm down about those tight ends too, because they did jack shit neither. Jack shit. You just drop the comparisons with the Florida tight end, okay? That guy's getting it done. He's making plays every week. That quarterback for Florida, he's going to be in New York for the Heisman. That's a real guy. I don't know what Miami's got at quarterback. I don't know what they've got at tight end. How you not show up? I said, I don't know how many more of these podcasts I'm going to do because this isn't fun. I know people don't like listening to it. I know there's a whole slew of people that have me blocked or think I'm the worst guy on Twitter or this and that. I don't know what they expect. Like, I put out a tweet to somebody, I forget who it was this week, but they were like, basically the 2001 team was self-coached. Like those guys just didn't even listen to the coaches and did whatever they want themselves. So I asked back, oh, really? Which running back on the team was tuning out Don Solinger? Which one? Yeah. For like 1 second, if one of those kids tuned him out or acted like they weren't listening or did something, against his orders, you would have been sat down. At the least. Don't even know what to tell the team is so soft and so sorry. It's not like it's only one or two bad apples on the team. I know, he's trying to fix the locker room. It's a culture thing. That's all bullshit. All of that is excuses. There's jerk-offs on every team. Somebody's got control of them. Usually the head coach. Our head coach doesn't. He doesn't have control of the mood and energy of the team. He should have yanked that turnover chain thing 2 years ago. It's stupid, and you look okay, it all went together in 2017, up until the Pitt loss. Miami was getting like 2 or 3 interceptions every week. They were on a big 10-game winning streak, and it worked. But if you don't have that rolling, you look stupid putting that thing on. They look just as dumb as every other school that's an imitation. Because what's going on now with the turnover chain is an imitation of what happened in 2017. But Manny don't realize that. You know why? Because he's a dork. He was an ESPN production assistant, a tech video nerd. He doesn't know culture. He went to FSU. Man, just the worst thing that could happen to this program happened. And that was Mark Richt, the Seminole. Howdy friggin' doody. Opie friggin' Taylor. Gosh shucks, y'all. They got the better of us this time, but we'll try to get them next week. Man, go on with your zipper Bible. That guy ruined the program. Oh, but Doc, he got us the indoor practice facility. That's a major upgrade because of the facility. Dude, the team's gotten softer since they had that thing. Nobody needs to practice inside that. Nobody needs a indoor practice facility in South Florida. They sure as shit don't deserve one. I would guess if things were still rolling and Miami was playing for national championships and then say, hey, Lightning's really screwing us up and we could just use an indoor practice facility. Fine, add it on. But to think that bringing that thing in is going to make a massive change in the culture and what's going on? There is no culture. There's losing. I love how anytime that Joaquin Gonzalez tweets, all of his comments from the dopes of the world that haven't had an original thought in their lives, they all say, they type, Joaquin said dominate. One right after another. Anytime he tweets, expand on his comments, and 75% of them are people saying Joaquin says dominate. How about the impact of Ed Reed? That's really showing up, right? Huh? Are you going to give him credit for the kid with the scratch nose, for Bubba Bolden? Oh, no, Ed Reed isn't really involved with a position or a group. Who knows what his job is? I mean, he looks really cool in the clothes and the hoodies and stuff, but the team no more plays like Ed Reed than before he came here. They're nothing like Ed Reed. There's nobody on the team that's like him. Nobody hasn't trickled down and, it's not contagious. It's not like, people on the team, wow, they're starting to get that Ed Reed vibe. The never quit, never give up. Just play until you can't even get up no more. They don't have that. The first setback they have, they fold. They folded in the first drive when the kid went off sides. Man, we can't get a break. A real team, an Ed Reed team, brushes that aside and makes a sack or picks the ball off and returns it for a touchdown. You'll feel sorry for yourself, and here comes the avalanche. Yup, we're playing the best quarterback and the best running back in the nation. I hope I don't get burned, man. Well, guess what? You got burned. And now you're playing Pitt, a nothing program. And probably more than half of the Canes fan base knows what to expect. The team's going to come out flat. Pitt's going to come out fired up. Notice that it never happens in the other direction, unless it's FSU, where the Canes come out on fire and the other team is flat. Why do you think that is? What are the other team's coaches doing that Miami isn't doing, where the other team comes out of the locker room, out of the tunnel with their heads on fire, and Miami comes out and sleepwalks through the first quarter and punts 3 times? What is that? That's soft. That's guys that don't care. That's the whole frigging roster. And they do it multiple times a year for the last 15 years. They even done it before that. They've done it when they were national champs. I saw, what was that? Dennis Erickson team just gave up against Arizona. They just quit. People talk about how many titles that LeBron has played for. How many times has he been in the championship game and how many has he won? And he's lost a whole bunch of them. So that makes him worse than, somebody else that was in less finals but had a higher winning percentage of championships. Well, how many should University of Miami, how many have they played in? How many championship implication games has Miami played in versus how many they've won? Is it like 10-5, 9-5, 11-5? Culture. I mean, culture is the second dumbest word going now other than narrative. As soon as you hear somebody say culture as it applies to sports, dumb, just cliche, just making up shit, assigning meaning to a word that really has no meaning. Well, you can't really define it, but you know what it is, and this team has it and this team doesn't, but we can be rest assured who doesn't have it, and that's Miami, because their culture is front run, play good when things are going well and you have an advantage and you're playing downhill. But the moment that you feel resistance or the other team is having some success, just fold. Quit. It's an hour-long game, and it's too much for them. Might be different if they only played 2 quarters. But they get into the third and fourth quarters of these games, and it's too much. It's too much for them mentally. And that's why they have players thrown out, and that's why they have over 100 yards in penalties. Repeating myself, I didn't care whether I care, but it didn't matter to me if Miami won or lost the game because nobody goes in and beats number 1 on the road. But what I wanted to see was improvement from last year, and I wanted to see fundamentals and disciplined football. And they've moved nowhere. Since last year, they got a new coordinator, a new quarterback, the big-time safety, he's on the field. That's to change nothing. There's no discipline. There's no heart. And this team's not done losing. Not because of differences in talent or running into teams that are significantly better than them like Clemson. They're going to lose other teams because they can't focus and they're not disciplined and they have poor fundamentals. And that's why they're going to lose. In conclusion, like I said, I don't know how many of these podcasts I'm going to do. I don't have guests. I don't have sponsors. I turned down the manscaping offer. Like, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, whatever. If you need to put sponsors on your podcast because you need the income, I'm not going to knock you. That's your business. Do whatever you have to do to make money. This thing, I don't get enough downloads to be able to generate revenue on this thing. Nothing. My podcast wouldn't even have made a penny yet. It wouldn't even have made 10 cents. With all my podcasts and all listens combined, a dollar, 50 cents, a quarter. So I don't need to stop the middle of the show and be like, hey guys, do you shave your nuts? That's not going to happen. You know what I mean? I've got a little bit of dignity and desire for nobility. Unlike the players who have neither. And I'm sorry if that's coming across harsh, but man, you put yourself on television. Anybody on television can be criticized. Anyone. If you don't want to be criticized, don't go on television. And I feel the same way with Twitter. You know, I don't mess with the kids, with the recruits, or the players, or even the ex-players for the most part, unless they're like, you know, close to my age. But if you're on Twitter, it's fair game. Just because I don't do it doesn't mean that there's some kind of morality I'm adhering to. I'm just not going to mess with somebody's, you know, young kid because that makes you a creep. But not because of, if I was closer to their age, I probably would. If you're on Twitter, you can be criticized. Just like I get criticized every day by haters. You know? A guy viciously attacked me today and told me that, yeah, my podcast sucks. I suck as a podcaster because I don't know anything about football because I didn't know a player's name or multiple players' names. I'll tell you straight up, I don't know 90% of the players' names because they're nobodies. They're nobodies. You know? Nobody ever says, oh, what's the name of the Green Bay quarterback there, that guy? No, people know that's Aaron Rodgers. When you're a star, people know your names. When you're a fanboy, you memorize the entire roster and their numbers and what high school they went to and how many stars they were. Get out of here. I'm not going to do that. That's not what I do. So we're here at 32 minutes. Depending on how the game goes tomorrow, I may do another podcast. I hope to God, get this right. Get this in your head. I hope Miami comes out and looks amazing. I hope they come out and rush it for 200 yards. I hope that Cam has 150 yards and one other back. And we don't need 3 running backs. Pick a backup and go with it. Either Chaney or Knighton, or just have 2 backs. And then I hope the kid King calms down and finds his rhythm and can execute the offense. You know, he got stomped last week. That was his wake-up call. Like, oh, boy, I'm just on my back foot, just heaving the ball in the air. Like, let's not do that again. 1, 2, 3, throw it. 1, 2, 3, throw it. If you're not going to do that, you might as well run the ball. If you're going to pat the ball and do figure eights in the backfield, you might as well just run the ball. That's it. Thanks for listening. If you follow me on Twitters, it's at BetterDuck. That's the crazy account. If you'd want less crazy tweets and just follow the podcast where it's a little more normal, that's at BetterCanes. And that's it. # beat Pitt. Go Canes.